All right, and we are live.
Regionfree makes my nipples hard. So let's go.
Return to London after midnight on WTSF.
Yeah, I know. I've been thinking about it a lot. I just wanted to hear your voice. You know what today is, right? I can't stop thinking about it. About what happened. And to his face. It was just a prank. What do you mean for that to happen? It's been 5 years.
Welcome back to Region Free. It is September.
September, baby.
September. Dan, has anything important ever happened in September?
Spirit Halloween starts putting out their selection for the year.
Do you know where the first Spirit Halloween store is still to this day?
Look at this.
Is it Long
It's in New
Beach?
Jersey.
It is in Egg Harbor, New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
They do a
Okay.
big celebration there every year for this. I think it's the first one to open.
Like most important things, it started in Jersey.
Have you guys gotten anything from Spirit Halloween yet?
Yeah.
I was gifted a pair of socks from Spirit Halloween.
I'm
Okay.
trying to get all of these, because I'm a mark. They've got like these stupid big box VHS
Oh, yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
they're
there's
pretty cheap.
crap inside, but it looks cool.
Yeah, it is cool crap. Some stickers, stuff like that, but I'm a mark and I can't help it. I love them.
Cool craps.
Cool crap.
My question is, has anybody tried to return it expecting a VHS in there?
Well, it
Probably
says
not.
the sticker on it that says like you're an idiot if you think there's a tape in here. So
Yeah, so it's actually like printed on the cover, and you have to take the art out and flip it around to get the side that has no, like, this is not a VHS. This collectibles inside.
Okay. Yeah. I kind of want a VHS with it. I don't quite get the point of a VHS box. I don't know. I don't like that.
Again, Dan, it's for the stuff inside. Like,
I
it's
know,
like-
I
and
get it.
besides the people in these 4 boxes here, who owns a VHS player? Yeah, we do, but no one else does. So
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
if they don't even own a DVD player anymore. So
that I don't.
is that true?
Not a dedicated DVD player. I don't. It's all Blu-ray and 4K.
I still have one, but yeah, Blu-ray plays DVD, so there's not really a point.
Yeah, why would you have it? Like, after a certain point, like, I remember way back in the day, I had an upscale DVD player because I couldn't afford a Blu-ray player. But that was the last time I bought one of those.
It might be important to get one again. So the way
I'm
the
pretty
world is
stocked up.
going.
I'm pretty stocked up on Blu-ray players. I hope we do talk a little bit about that. I didn't get to come in on the pre-show. We work everything out, but there was some pretty big news about physical media that hit this week, and I know Lauren saw it.
Oh yeah.
We all saw it. I think
Yeah.
it came up.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it'll worm its way into the topics just to impress everyone in the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they love so much when we talk about.
But this is like
extinction of physical media.
But this is like hard concrete business evidence. Like this is it. Like
as opposed to 83% of the market evaporating in the last 9 years.
Well, you're talking about half of like the actual producers in the market leaving. Like the market just shrank by 50%.
Well, I mean, so for those of you not keeping track, this is basically a discussion about Ingram no longer distributing disc-based media.
Anything.
So CDs, DVDs, Blu-ray, 4K, gone. And this is a big deal because this is where pretty much all your mom and pop shops order from. And it's a big deal because a lot of independent labels only distribute through them. It's pretty much leaving the market open to the big guys and going to force a lot of the more boutique labels to be mail order only or net order only, I guess, really.
Something I don't see getting hit on a lot is they produced a lot of video games as well.
Mm-hmm.
Which my theory is what's going to happen is we're going to flood the market with video games, which are something that still need to be put on disc or physical media, whatever type they're on. That's going to push back what we get quite a bit further and at much larger prices because there'll be pretty much one game in the United States.
So for those of you who don't understand how physical media actually works, so a company puts together a prototype they want to go to market with. So they work out let's say it's a disc, let's say it's a Blu-ray disc, they work out the menus, they've mastered the film to the disc. They have all the packaging ready to go. They take this prototype. Now they have a couple steps in front of them. They need to have this thing mass produced. They have to have it warehoused. They have to have the shipping arranged, and they have to have it distributed out to stores who will order it. And there has to be a system to do so. Ingram handled all that.
All of that.
Okay. So the problem isn't that no one will want to put discs out. It's that now there's all the associated costs that used to be shared by having an entire system in place are now going to be not shared with anyone but the boutique label itself. So your boutique label prices just probably doubled.
Yep.
And in doing so, you have to ask yourself, what is your, we always talk about what's the ceiling we're willing to pay. We've talked about it a million times on this show and others. I'm not willing to pay $50 a title. I'm not. Period.
And you're seeing it. It's becoming a standard, man. It's becoming a standard already. Unfortunate that Ingram operated at zero debt, by the way. So this is a hostess situation. This is literally like, we're not going to put ourselves into debt. Like, we're going to get out of this before it becomes the issue we see.
Well, Ingram and Baker and Taylor were traditionally always the big, their money was made with books and periodicals. So which is also why, if you remember when Borders and Barnes and Nobles got into DVD, why it was so easy for them to one day just open their doors and have like full sections there, because it was a regular distributor.
Yeah, they just picked up a new product line. That's it.
And now they're exiting that product line.
So cheers to Ingram. Who knows how many fucking Ingram discs you have on your fucking shelf.
The moral of this, before you pay $100 for it, grab Ghoulies on 4K now.
Dan, you didn't even mean that.
Directed by the great Luca Bercovici.
Yes. You interviewed him on your channel. It's one of my favorites.
Live from Romania.
Yeah.
Yes. He was a great guy talking about Empire and Charles Band in general. It was pretty intense.
You know another bad sign, and I forgot that I ordered this, but this is not in any spirit that I'm aware. And they've got a movie out. The Spirit.
They do not carry it there. Yeah, it's almost like they're ashamed of it.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie?
Should they be ashamed of it?
They should be ashamed of it.
It's a solid little.
Yes, Christopher Lloyd should be ashamed of it. He should apologize, is what he should do.
That bastard should apologize for everything after Cuckoo's Nest.
Christopher Lloyd could right now star in a Hills Have Eyes remake. Have you noticed this?
Just Christopher Lloyd wandering around the countryside.
Is that
wearing that necklace? Wearing that necklace. That's you're done.
I've just got an image of Christopher Lloyd in the baby scene in the remake, and it's
absolutely
killing my childhood.
Lorne?
Hmm?
Is that a little bit of foreshadowing, Lorne?
It might be. It feels like it's been forever since we did one of these shows, but it really hasn't. It's been literally like 30 days, but it feels
In a
good.
literal month.
Yeah, it feels good to be with you guys.
Well, everybody's output has drastically dropped off, so we don't see each other every afternoon
That's
or
true.
evening.
True.
Or so
But don't worry, COVID's coming back, so I'll see you all real
exactly.
Zah!
I have it right now. So
soon. Yeah,
cheers.
there you go.
8.5.
Jonathan, you want to start us off reading the mail?
The real Mike 1976 says, question: does the original Exorcist get more respect in general than Halloween because it's religious horror as opposed to a slasher film? I think so.
I think it's just a better written, conceived, and directed film. If we're being fair, I mean, Halloween's great. Don't get me wrong for what it is.
Written, conceived, shot, acted.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just better. Like that is just a case of it.
Well,
it
they're
doesn't hold
both.
up. Like
Here's the problem.
it's punching out of its weight class.
You're looking at the best two examples, really, of both of those kinds of films. A possession film, that's
True.
Exorcist, is boom, bar none, the best of its kind, and Halloween is the best of its kind slasher. So what you're really looking at is which do you prefer genre-wise? Now, me, I've been through this 1,000 times. I don't love possession horror and religious horror, but I love slashers. So for me, it's clearly the better film. But I could see the
I think
argument.
respect is the key word of this question, I think, right? Because The Exorcist was always respected both in the mainstream and in the horror
That's
community.
true. That's true.
Halloween took a while to get to the mainstream, respecting that first film.
Yeah.
They'll probably never get to respecting the series, which might be more appropriate than not.
Exorcist is getting there, though. I mean,
Well,
As a
the
whole.
Exorcist sequels are not necessarily respected. Third film,
Three
not.
should be. Three should be.
It's respected more than the others. That's for sure. I actually
Recently, though. Recently.
I mean, I won't make a proclamation that Exorcist 3 is scarier than the original because I don't think that's true at all. But I think it might be. I definitely prefer it as a film, and I think it has a lot to say, and that's cool for the genre.
Lauren, have they done a movie that's like the possession movie, but like it's really just abuse that's happening here? Like,
Yeah, there was that
that's
courtroom drama. What was that? Oh, Dan, help me.
I know what you're talking about.
is that the Exorcism of Emily Rose?
No, but I know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
It's been tackled a few different times. I know. Yeah, it was like a schizophrenia thing, I think.
Yeah.
I think like the case
Yeah.
that they say like that's based on, is it was just abuse. Like they just starved and basically beat that girl to death.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of theories on it. There's very little reporting, like very little reporting.
But if we use our deductive reasoning and logic, we
Well,
can,
don't do that.
we can assume
This is America. We don't do that. Steak, you ready to read the next piece of mail?
I'll give it a shot. And please don't read my comments during the stream.
Redacted.
So we did not. However, I do want to respond to your comment. Lance, we've been friends for a while. Not like close friends, like internet friends. Your objection basically was when I say flippantly to people that they have the absolute, that I find it charming that they have the absolute right to have such a wrong opinion. The thing is, that statement has a dual meaning. On the surface, it gets a laugh because I'm being mean, and that's kind of the joke, right? I'm being mean. I'm playing my villain role. But there's another side of it. Like the statement itself is an opinion. So you have to protect all opinions, including ones you are personally offended by. So calling me out for it kind of proves its point. So thanks, dude.
Cheers.
And again, no hard feelings. It's like you expressing your opinion about my opinion about the opinion is still cool. That's how conversations work.
I don't like conversations.
You should try it the way me and Lauren do sometimes. We just yell at each
God.
other.
If people want to
And
know.
Fuck
And then
yourself.
when we get done, we're like, God, I'm glad we did this.
Exactly. Then 2 years later, we come back. We're on the opposite sides of the same issue.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan, ready?
Okay. Ah, that was so fun. And that is my niece.
There we go. Lily8180 says you should do this on Shudder. Shudder can't afford.
Well,
Eventually,
come with the money, Shutter. That's what I'm saying. I'm
money,
a Joe
a
Rogan.
month or two will be.
I'm a Rogan type talent, so I expect Rogan type money.
we need to undercut
Got the hype down.
Joe Bob.
You know, the problem is we'll end up just like the last drive-in, whereas the episodes can't stay on the channel because we'll start getting bold and using clips from movies that we don't have the rights to and shit.
Yeah, and you'll just see like the show logo instead of the movie on that one when you flip past it.
And then Sam will step out and try and do the Darcy side projects, and it just won't work. Wow, that was mean.
Ouch!
Ladies.
Love you, Sam.
Did you just say she should do porn?
I didn't say that.
Oh no!
No!
Whoa, Dan!
Well, that's what that sounded like to me.
That was you.
Darcy does a lot of very meaningful social projects.
I don't think that's a side project anymore. That's a former project. Something she used to do.
Okay. I was just clarifying that.
She dabbles.
Who wants the last comment?
I'll read it.
Ben Grimm. Have any of you seen What's Under Dan's Hat? If so, please describe.
I have not.
Dan, would you like to spoil the mystery?
I feel like that's untrue because I think I posted an exercise video that you would
not in the exercise group.
I have seen Under His
Clearly, this does not exercise. This is
This
is homegrown.
It is a living, breathing penis with a face.
It is.
It talks.
Have you ever seen Terror Vision?
Have you ever seen Eternal Evil of Asia, which literally has that?
There you go.
A talking penis under a hat?
A man is turned into a living member.
A literal dickhead.
Yeah.
Is he under a hat?
No.
Is this
That's different entirely. I don't want to hear about
this. Is that what this is?
It's a Cat 3 Chinese film that, of course, Dan and I love it.
Have you guys seen Bo is Afraid yet?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you just wait for giant penises.
I want the review of that, Lauren.
I'm baffled.
Oh, Jesus.
My friend just asked me when a payment was due for something a month ago. When's it due? August 23rd? Mind you, this is the air date for this show here is September 13th.
Been there.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, let's jump into it. Not that we didn't start with a bonus topic right off the top, but who wants to show some love for Satan? So the horror genre has a storied history of dealing with the personification of Christian evil. Satan, Beelzebub, Lucifer, the Dark One, the prince of this world. So one thing I noticed that, like, from 1922 with Haxan, Witchcraft Through the Ages, to literally like recent hits like The Witch and the Dark and the Wicked, for instance, there's been a long history of the horny one showing up in our entertainment, but he's kind of changed along those times, right? He used to be like very literal, and now he's used just a step in for like the problems of the time.
Yeah.
So what do you guys you can take this however you want, but let's talk about Satan in our genre.
Yeah, for me, I've always really been fascinated by satanic horror, whether it's the widely regarded films like, of course, Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, what have you, and even the cheesy stuff like Devil's Reign and Brotherhood of Satan and some of those Satan School for Girls, some of those satanic panic era TV films. I don't know what it is in particular. I mean, it is, went to Catholic school. That was kind of the big bad. So you were always going to be at the time. So you were always going to be drawn to that. What could be scarier? And I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. I mean, now I recognize some of the silliness in something like Devil's Reign. I mean, my God, how could you be afraid of that movie? It's a blast, but John Travolta looks scarier now, I think, than Ernest Borgnine in that movie. But
that's true. I don't know. There are a few people on this world scarier than Ernest Borgnine.
This is true. This is true.
Popeyes of his. It's creepy. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, just going way back, and I am going to talk about one tonight that doesn't get talked about a lot because I do think it's one of Hammer's gems, and that is The Devil Rides Out from 1968, and their go-to director, Terrence Fisher, probably alongside Freddie Francis, the most recognizable director from Hammer. And Devil Rides Out is a great film. I just watched it again last night to kind of refresh myself. It always reminds me how wasted at times Christopher Lee was in the Hammer Dracula films, even though I do love them, but he certainly offered a lot more. And for those unfamiliar, this was actually an adaptation of the Dennis Wheatley novel, The Devil Rides Out, and it's got a lot of horror pedigree attached to it. Dennis Wheatley essentially dominated British horror literature for a time, along with the Herbert Van Thal anthologies that were really popular in the late 50s and going into the 60s. And but this also had another legend behind the screenplay, Richard Matheson, who had hopefully everybody knows the novels and the short stories that Richard Matheson wrote, but he was also very prolific when it came to screenplays from, and also Twilight Zone, Tales of Terror, Fall of the House of Usher, Pit and the Pendulum. He also did a screenplay for Last Man on Earth, which, of course, he wrote the book, I Am Legend, as well. So this movie had a lot going for it. I mean, Christopher Lee, and it comes out at a time. This was shot at the same time as Rosemary's Baby, which of course is the more well-known film. I like Rosemary's Baby. I see that it's one of the most important horror films ever made. I'm going to say I kind of like this better. I would more go back to this one more often. I think it's a lot more fun. We have Charles Gray, who is essentially playing Aleister Crowley, which was the popular villain at the time. Everybody was based on Aleister Crowley. And
Mr. Crowley. Sorry.
Charles Gray's going to come up at least once more tonight. How crazy is that?
Yeah. And ironically, the role was initially intended for Gert Frobe, who played Goldfinger. And of course, Charles Gray, for mainstream movie fans, was Blofeld in Diamonds Are Forever. So,
and the narrator in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
He was, yes. A name that doesn't come up much when we talk about, horror legends, but he certainly made his mark. And he was such a good villain. The thing about this movie is some of the special effects were never finished. They were later, but this guy projects fear so well, just with his eyes. This guy is so intimidating in this movie, and I don't know why it's never talked about. I never really hear much about Devil Rides Out from particularly younger horror fans, and I always thought it was quite sad because it's a really good movie. It's one of the better Hammer horrors. And yeah, I don't know what it is about this one, but I've always really connected to it when the Angel of Death appears on horseback, and you've got Christopher Lee in The Circle. This is just a really good movie that deserves more respect. And I don't understand, because so much was changing in '68. I would think people would have embraced this a little bit more. It's still old fashioned to a degree, but it's not brought up. It's always Frankenstein and Dracula when it comes to Hammer. And I was like, there were so many great movies that were made outside of that. And that's maybe a problem we still have today because it's hard to get away from the franchises, but that was also very much the case back then when it comes to these movies. And Makata should be a household name when it comes to villains because he was fantastic. And this does not play the devil. In fact, the devil was actually played by an actor, a stuntman, I should say, that was particularly known for also playing the Xenomorph in Alien.
Oh, Kevin, what's his name? Kevin Peter Hall?
No. I'm trying to think of his name right now, and it's escaping
the former. I can't think of his name now either. It's not an easy name.
Melvin Wainwright.
Yes. No, that's not it.
Melvin Wainwright.
Just say it with conviction, and they'll believe you. But yeah, I don't. Where does this fall for you, Lorne? Because I don't know why Devil Rides Out. Most people don't even know it exists.
Oh, I love the movie. It's the fastest pace of all the Hammer films.
Mm-hmm.
It's an action film in many ways. I mean, it's horror, but it's an action film. It is a chase movie. It's a road movie in many ways. It moves lightning quick. The characters are all established very quickly. You care about them. You buy in very fast.
Eddie Powell, by the way.
There you go.
There you go.
And Powell, how would we possibly remember that?
Yeah. Who I do want to say was
I feel like
active.
Wainwright and Powell aren't really that far off.
He was an icon, though, man. I mean, of course, the Xenomorph role, but he worked all the way up until the late 90s. Daylight with Sylvester Stallone, I think, was his last movie, but he worked on Jason and the Argonauts and all these fantastic movies. He was Christopher Lee's go-to stuntman. Willow was another thing he did, and just that goat image, the goat of Mendez is what they call it, and or Baphomet. It's perfect. No CG, just creepy and amazing. But I'm sorry, Lauren, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I mean, the thing is, I actually would be that rare Hammer fan that thinks that the Frankenstein films are good. The Dracula films, generally speaking, are questionable. But
not as good as the Frankenstein. For
nowhere near as good as the Frankenstein. But my favorite stuff always fell outside the big franchises with Hammer anyway. I mean, there is a franchise inside it, the Karnstein trilogy, that I love much more. But they actually did a lot of great stuff. Their Mummy series is actually very good. We don't talk about that. All of the psycho thrillers they put out, all very good. So Hammer's one of those companies that gets pigeonholed by a few films, and that's unfortunate. Hopefully, with Hammer back on the world market very soon, hopefully they don't fall back into doing a greatest hits routine, because the last time they came back, they didn't, and I liked it. So hopefully we get more of that.
Yeah. I wouldn't be opposed to them taking a shot at something like Devil Rides Out again, or To the Devil a Daughter, which I know that was kind of not their last film, but that was the last sort of Hail Mary play for them.
Yeah. So one film that I particularly love when we're talking about really, when we say devil, it's kind of foggy anyway, because does the devil have to be a character, or is it his influence? Because Dark and the Wicked, is he on screen? Well, maybe for a split second if you don't blink, maybe. But one film I like to talk about a lot is Blood on Satan's Claw. A film that sets you up to believe it's not a Christian horror film, but ultimately it reduces itself to the point where it is. And it's that evil figure. If you haven't seen Blood on Satan's Claw, it's one of the best examples of folk horror you're ever going to see. Clearest forerunner, The Witch. If you like The Witch, you need to see Blood on Satan's Claw. They go together as a double feature so well.
They do.
Yeah, just brilliant film. I would also say Night of the Demon, even though we're not dealing with Satan himself in that, is a great traditional Christian, although through kind of siphoned through Irish mythology as well.
Yeah, from 1957, by the way. So
the great Jacques Tournay, who can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. Once you make cat people, you're good. But that's a tremendous, tremendous film. You guys have a famous favorite Satan films?
If
Johnny
somebody
boy?
says Little Nicky, Lauren's gonna end the stream.
Yeah, it's thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Harvey Keitel was a decent Satan.
I mean, yeah.
Excuse me,
Well,
boss. You
dance
got to shove
number
a
he does
pineapple up
towards the
Hitler's
end?
ass in 3 hours.
Sweet.
Is it going to shock you guys to discover that I've never seen that?
It's comical.
Not at all. I think it's a decent little Adam Sandler. One of his last good ones, in my opinion.
If you want a comedic side of the devil, I will throw out Reaper with Ray Weiss.
I'll throw out what is the name of it now? I lost it. At the Brendan Fraser vehicle with the British broad there.
Bedazzled?
Liz Hurley.
Bedazzled.
Bedazzled. That's A-okay by me. I rented that from the library a lot.
If we're allowed to do that, I'm just going to say Girlfriend from Hell and win this argument.
I was going to go Devil's Advocate and Angel Heart.
Angel Heart is amazing.
Yeah.
I like Devil's Advocate too because just Al Pacino is so like unhinged and not really there. Like I like to think that's what Satan is. You know what I mean? Just kind of flying by the seat of his
Satan
pants.
takes a lot of coke, that's what.
Oh, where am I?
What did you say?
Who is there? he's just all the
Soon to
time.
be first time dad, Al Pacino.
He's not a first time dad. He had twins
Excuse
with
me.
Beverly D'Angelo.
Oh, I guarantee Al Pacino has more children than he knows about.
Oh, okay, I
But for
think,
sure he had twins with Beverly D'Angelo.
okay.
Dan seems skeptical of that.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Dan,
sure.
Dan, did he tell you something that's not true to
I talk to him every night. And
Well,
Man, you're not gonna believe it.
D'Angelo told me that
hashtag
he
Dan,
was celibate.
Dan
She was
too?
celibate.
So he has 4 kids, and 2 of them are with Beverly D'Angelo.
Oh, okay, well,
Oh.
I'm wrong. So he was lying to me, but
And the other two? That's right, Phil Hartman.
I'm glad you brought up Blood on Satan's Claw. Damn. Get it trending. Blood on Satan's Claw, Linda Hayden. Holy
God,
shit.
yeah. There's that too.
I got to meet her at Chiller, and a lot of people talk Britt Eklund and Wicker Man. Kind of that iconic.
Well, because
scene.
of the song.
Yeah. But that seduction scene in Blood on Satan's Claw is
Unreal.
pretty iconic as well.
Unreal.
Yeah, and that's a genuinely scary movie too. I like Devil Rides Out a lot. I like to think everybody listening to this show will watch it and love it, but Blood on Satan's Claw, I think you're right. If you're a fan of The Witch and you have not seen this, you need to remedy that because it is top tier folk horror.
So if they force you to read The Crucible in high school and you actually were one of those girls that liked it, you need to watch both these films.
Yeah, great.
I had a good time with The Crucible only because we read it as a class, and I was John Proctor, and I was hammering it up.
There you go. I can't imagine that.
Well, you didn't think my take on fucking Scrooge was measured and reserved?
All I remember that night is not realizing how much text I had to read on the air until I had to do it. It's like, wait, if you like everyone else's dialogue combined isn't what I need to read here.
I have 1 line.
I think Oracle only had 1, but he said it like 8 times. So I just want to say that it's funny because I think that like horror movies always do a good job of like mirroring the society when they're successful, and how we approach the devil in horror has changed so much. Like Haxan is literally like 3rd century wood cuttings come to life, right? very literal. These are what demons look like. This is what the devil looks like. He's a person. This is what happens. This is what hell looks like. It's literally a place you go when you die. But as we roll on, we talk about the 60s. That's when it pretty much started changing with the two films that we outlined, kind of. But then as you get to the 70s and 80s and afterwards, you start to see the devil represent other things like Rosemary's Baby. I mean, the novel makes it very explicit that the real horror of that situation is that the kid's going to end up to be like dad. And I don't mean Satan. I mean dad.
Yeah.
And then you go further, you start to realize that, The Exorcist is a film about absent fathers in many ways. Getting the rest of the abuse out of the picture. It's about absent fathers, which is what Karras' absent father, of course, is Jesus, like who he's constantly asking for proof that he exists, and he doesn't have him. But Reagan does not have a father figure in the house explicitly. Her mother calls him on the phone and even says he can't call her on her birthday. He just doesn't give a shit. It's a film about absent fathers. And then finally a father does show up and has to sacrifice himself to save the little girl. But it's interesting that the devil almost doesn't matter to that story, right? He's an impetus, but he doesn't matter. And that's so interesting coming from the early part of the century where the devil was such a literal force of evil. Again, if you take Curse of the Demon, literally, it's a demon, and he wants to do bad shit.
Yeah.
But as we get to the 70s and 80s and 90s, we've pretty much abandoned that. Dark and the Wicked is definitely about the sins of a family that is fractured, that doesn't want to talk about, the sins of the father, which is ultimately why while we never find out what the paralyzed dad in the bed actually did, although it's intimated hard that bad shit went down, we do see what his son does to his family, don't we? Right? So it's interesting that the devil seems, the implication used to be the devil was outside, and now the devil is inside. And that's happened over the course of about 100 years, which is, I think, pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, the evolution has been interesting. And I mean, I'll be honest, there's a lot of devil-themed horror movies that are not good. Yeah. Even going way back. It's not always a sure thing, but when it clicks, man, does it click. And I think you got a few examples. Land of the Minotaur.
The Devil's Men. Love that film.
Yeah. That's a great one as well. I always like to mention newer films. I will throw out Beelzebub, the 2017 Mexican horror movie. Mm-hmm. 1971 was also a good year because we also had Don't Deliver Us from Evil, the French horror film from Joel Seria.
Yeah.
If you're making lists, Mephisto Waltz, also 71. I'm not going to call it a classic, but that's a good double with Rosemary's Baby. I always kind of liked Mephisto Waltz.
It's a fun little Misfits tune as well.
I wanted to throw out a few. Day of the Beast, the Alex de la Iglesia film.
I love that movie.
Devil is on screen in that. Not long.
Yeah, absolutely.
But wow, is it effective at the climax of that movie. So there's a few. If you want to run with the devil.
According to Passion of the Christ, the devil's a bald albino man. Probably the kid from Powder.
Sean Patrick Flannery.
I think that's very possible.
That's what Powder's about. He's just the devil. Jesus, but the devil. It's that story.
So he's not the devil. I think he's just a demon, if I remember right. But he's just in a movie called Nefarious, which is a very, very right-wing
Christian propaganda film.
It is. It's not bad, though. It's actually very well acted. It'll piss a lot of people off, though.
What was the Henry Rollins movie where he turns out to be Cain? I thought that's where that one was going. I thought he was going to be Satan or something. But no, just Cain. Boring.
He can't die, or he never dies.
Something like that.
He never dies.
Wasn't that the twist in Dracula 2000 as well?
Was it?
Dracula 2000.
It was yeah.
He was Judas Iscariot.
He was Judas, that's right.
Yeah, Dracula was Judas.
Because I legitimately actually liked the one time I saw it, the Henry Rollins movie, but I can't think of the name of it to save my life.
You know what Henry Rollins' best film is?
The new guy?
Lost Highway. Everyone forgets he's in it.
Oh, that is true.
That's weird. It's not the way you say wrong turn too.
That brings us to
Ding dog.
how would you survive the thing?
I don't trust any of
This
you fuckers anyway. So
That's true. Well, we're socially distanced from each other right now by
Yeah.
quite a bit, so we're not in danger at the moment. But if we were in an Arctic station with a couple dogs and some just bare hanging bulbs out of the ceiling, which I never understood, but how would you survive the alien invasion? Steak, why don't you kick us off here?
How would I survive? Simply put, I wouldn't. There's no shot in hell. I'm hoping in this scenario that I am not the first to go, just so I can see, okay, well, I'm fucked. Whatever booze is back there, any weed that was left behind, anyone's head stashed away. I'm getting into it. All the rations I'm eating, I don't give a shit. I'm going out.
yeah, I'm quietly just fading away while like
Gluttonously.
all the commotion's going on. People's bodies are opening up and eating people. Heads are scurrying across the room. I'm gonna calmly back myself out of that room, and I'm gonna go find somewhere to wait this shit out. Maybe up in a ceiling tile or something.
I like the idea of walking into a room with a bag of chips and as something just kind of, opens up to swallow something else.
Kind of
Oh,
stop.
shit.
Whoop. And just walk back out. Just...
Wrong room.
You throw a bag of Lay's at it and run.
No, I'm taking those with me. I need sustenance.
So
The only thing that can kill the alien is Cooler Ranch.
I'm also not pouring whiskey directly into the computer.
It's
Like, I don't know how that could have helped him, but I feel like it's better than pouring whiskey in it.
Yeah.
This one's a
will
tough
say, though,
survival scenario.
It was meant to mirror the ending of the film.
Mm.
Still, I'm not doing that. That's a dumb thing to do.
If
We've
the
all
answer
been
to
bested
this
by
scenario,
chess.
The way to survive is to throw Cool Ranch Doritos at it. Sorry, guys. Not
Not
happening.
Not happening.
Those are
We're in
mine.
Antarctica. You know how hard it is to get these fucking things?
Well,
Impossible.
wait. You know why that wouldn't work?
These came
Because
out of me.
They have dog. The thing has dogs in it. It just like it would produce a dog head and just catch them out of the air. We know dogs can do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. See, I'm not a dog
I'll
person.
throw hot dogs and
I figure
Doritos.
I have a while
You're going
to
after
survive
hot
before it comes for me, because it's gonna get the dog people first, clearly, right? Like you motherfuckers are gonna walk in there and want to pet the puppies.
I'm immediately.
I don't
You're
give
dying
a good
first.
goddamn.
So I'm
Dog
loading up
annoy the
all
shit.
the supplies on that helicopter. Hear me out here. I'm going to go the one place we know the thing isn't. I'm going to the alien spaceship with the hatch open on top. I'm going to load all the supplies into it. I'm closing that hatch and waiting. I'm just going to wait 3 or 4 months. Everything's going to freeze. The thing's dead. I go back out. I go back to Norwegian camp because we know it's not there either. And then, bam, I wait it out. Someone eventually shows up, or they don't, but I have a better chance. But I'm telling you, the safest place is inside that alien ship.
That's pretty well thought out.
It's okay.
I don't
in while you're napping and take off, and all of a sudden you're in fucking Zeta Reticula.
Well, you know what?
You don't know if you breathe the same shit as they do.
But you want to know
Yeah.
what? At that point, what a trip! You kind of go with it. I mean, that's not a bad.
Well, do you
That's,
hop? Well,
that's the end of your story. It's a lot better than dying in a hospice and
That's
fucking
true.
hack and sack.
But do you willingly hop on a spaceship
God.
then?
That's dreary.
I feel like if I could get on the alien ship, I would, because my God, then you know.
Right.
Like, you get to be the person that knows. You're probably going to die from some alien bacteria or something that'll just eat your skin.
It's too
or
cold.
something,
You're fine.
I don't know. But yeah, this is a tough one to survive because I was thinking about it, thinking about the movie, like, okay, how would you fare? And I'm paranoid anyways. So I hate to say it. I think I would be the guy that would kind of have the mental breakdown and just try and kill everyone. Just like, okay, if I take everybody out, if I can lure them into one spot and maybe cause a fire and explosion, that would be the way I would go. And then I'd just freeze to death as a murderer, I suppose. But
You realize how quickly everyone always says, "I want a thing sequel where it gets back to the mainland." that movie doesn't work.
That kills.
You go
That's-
anywhere.
yeah.
You go anywhere where there's flies, and it's over like in a day.
Well, I mean,
And it
look how
wins.
fast COVID fucking
Yeah.
spread. You're gonna tell me alien fucking parasite isn't gonna go faster than that?
People always want bigger, but I think you would just lose what made the thing a perfect horror film, in my opinion. Probably John Carpenter's best horror movie.
Mm,
The isolation, you really can't. Like, it's not one of those ones like a lot of haunted house movies, like just leave the fucking house. You don't really have that option.
Yeah, you're in fucking Arctica.
You're
Fuck.
surrounded by death. Your options are very limited. You have to be in there with whatever this thing is.
You want to talk about solving
Yeah.
the cell phone problem? I mean,
This is my
Yeah.
Antarctica.
I got perfect signal. It's just everybody's on a different continent. They can hear me just fine.
it was 1982. There was no cell phones.
They had a satellite phone.
They did.
You know, they could have dug that motherfucker out. It was bigger than the fucking alien spaceship that they found.
Present
I
day,
think what we got of this movie was just enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
That
No
you know
more,
what?
no less.
I'm a huge fucking fan of the original as
Yeah.
well. Like, that movie's fucking great in a completely different way.
Great. It's a great traditional monster movie. The carrot rocks.
The
I've never
fucking
seen
carrot.
Say what you will about the prequel that they did in 2011. That movie would have never been great, but they actually opted for CG when they had practical effects ready to go. That tested, and they're like, no, just CG. There's actually footage of some really good practical effects from that Thing prequel.
Yeah, Amalgamated posted it all on
Yeah.
YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah.
I prefer like the just not knowing what happened at that Norwegian camp to knowing anything about it. That's way eerier.
It does the thing that I hate about all these requels, which is that they do all the story beats, but then pretend it exists inside the existing narrative. It's so obnoxiously stupid. Like, everything that happens in the thing happens in the prequel. And yet you're supposed to think it's somehow like, okay, I don't know. It's like they want it both ways. It doesn't work for me. It's just a lack of imagination, bad writing, or at least compromised writing, because maybe they were told to do what. Maybe it's good, the best possible written version of the same shit that the studio forced on them. I don't know.
Well, it seems like it could have been like, I mean, but just by them calling it Thing or whatever, like, I'd say the studio was like, hey, you've got to at least kind of soft remake what we know already works. Like, I think if they're naming it The Thing or Thing, like, they're in that business to try to confuse you anyway.
But that's the whole thing. It's like there was a first film, as you just acknowledged, and they took the general setup and went in a wildly different direction, based much more on the original novella. But I mean, that same idea, you should take the basic premise of that remake and then explode it in some different direction, not just go through the same story beats.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thing from Another World as well. Let's not forget the 50s film. But no, I
Always
don't think,
remember the 50s.
The 50s.
I don't
Back
think I
when
would
men were
survive.
men and sheep were scared.
And rock and roll was young. And the Big Bopper was getting on a plane saying, I'll see you guys soon. Oh,
Buddy fucking Holly!
Hello, babe. We're going down.
Chantilly lace.
Actually, we're going down. That's the last time I'm going to speak with you.
Is that
Some
too
kids will love
soon?
them.
Is it too soon to make that joke?
Oh, no. I'm pretty sure the reason the bass player for Blitz Kid won't speak to me, though, is because I made a Buddy Holly joke, and he's got a weird fascination with that gentleman. That's the best I can figure out as to why we don't speak. But
Hey, I like Gary Busey as much as the next
Oh,
guy, okay? But I'm not going to get all bent out of shape about it.
Makes you remember that he used to be a real human being when you think of Buddy Holly in that movie.
Yeah.
You can go
before
back.
they took his brain.
Well, there's a lot of that. Even like he's a competent villain in fucking Lethal Weapon. You bring 10 years later, you make that movie, and it's a way different movie.
He's on the set of Ginger Dead Man, and they have to tell him to stop chasing the makeup lady and trying to tickle her. Like, that's the fall. That is real. That's not just something I'm making up.
I spend 8 hours a day doing that.
Oh my
God.
But does anybody here then think that they would survive the thing? Because I think it's a really
No, I don't.
yeah. I'm gonna have to say dead on this one.
I mean, I
hate to.
hide until I get found. Basically, that's the only.
Well, that's how you do everything in life, though, sir.
Well, yeah. Sometimes they don't
Hey,
find you though. But I mean,
hate
you're on
to
it.
spoil
But the
it.
paycheck keeps coming anyway, right?
It does.
You
It
said
does.
air vent. I feel like air vent is a really dumb spot because if they do realize you're
I
there,
said
you're
ceiling
screwed.
tile.
Oh, okay. I thought you said air vent.
No, just
I
give me a
thought you
ceiling
said air
tile.
vent.
I'm
He
gonna
was
chill.
trying
in,
to
like, the back
illogically
corner.
newt his way out of the situation.
I'm just gonna be out of sight, out of mind. Like you leave me up there with some weed, some chips. Like I can wait till the next brigade comes in. Like,
The
I'm fine.
alien's gonna smell that though, John.
Then he can have some.
I think he
There's
has
about
bigger
one-
goals in life.
I don't know,
One
man. He's
movie
probably never
scenario
had weed
that we
before. I
know.
feel like we could talk it out.
I think on his in his world, he probably has something much more powerful than we.
Well, then hopefully he will share as well, and we'll do a whole like.
Well, he wants to
diplomatic thing.
share, all right. Your
Maybe,
biology.
yeah. We'll see. Well, maybe nobody just sat down and had a blunt with him and fucking talked out what's going on.
Drugs are
See,
not
that's
always the
problem.
answers there.
I'm thinking weed could probably save this movie.
No. The last thing we need is the alien wanting my Cheetos.
Yeah,
They
like
used
that's
to-
all.
they
You
used to say
just
that
see the
shit about
fucking tentacle
cocaine.
things come over by a bag of Cheetos. You're like, stop.
That's like the end.
Fucking
It's
retract.
crawling. It's crawling towards you, and it just like grabs the Cheetos and just takes them back to its planet. Everybody's dead except you, but that's the ending. Just wanted some Cheetos.
But or that's like they can't infect me if I'm high. Like that's like it's a
I-
thing they didn't even
how-
know about.
I don't see how that logic works.
You don't
They-
know. We
they
don't know.
Get in your body in panic.
Yeah, it's like fuck, dude. How are you eating?
Hey, listen, I was gonna take over that cell, but I don't think I'm going to because that cell's looking at me.
This fucking immediately like regurgitates out. Just oh god.
Wait,
Why's my
you
heart
can have
beating
you
so
back.
fast?
I don't.
Why
want
are you so fucking nervous? Like I don't understand. It's like I told you I have depression. You really want that, alien?
It brings
Well,
anxiety.
you know what?
to its
You
own
just hit it,
world.
Jonathan. If the thing took me and you over, we wouldn't have to worry about it.
It would kill
because
itself.
Yeah, exactly. The depression would be too much for it. It'd be
He'd
over.
like ponder his fucking existence and be like, it's all for nothing.
the bleak, starry
I
existence of
didn't ask to
mine.
be here. This isn't fair.
You'd
Yeah.
start listening to New Order.
The thing aliens walking around with a Pantera t-shirt on and a headband.
Xenu, you're a real buzzkill since you got back. What the hell?
And now he just wants to tell you how you should probably try out mushrooms. That's all we have to worry about.
that
for
In
the
Excess
fucking
are
alien
actually,
now.
and In Excess are actually a really underrated band.
You know, I've been listening to a lot of Fish lately, guys.
Oh,
It's not
fuck.
bad.
No, that's not cool. We gotta eliminate
really
that
starting to get
fucking
into jam
species when it
bands.
starts speaking that way.
Get into jam bands a lot.
Oh, I don't go for that type of talk.
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 That type of talk.
So when did modern horror begin? So this is a line that we always talk about, like things belonging to either like before kids would watch a movie or after. But there's definitely some kind of moment there. There has to be a film that was transitionary. Some people would put it as Psycho or Night of the Living Dead. Maybe they even go later to something like Dawn of the Dead or Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But I'm interested in your guys' take on and what do you think that film is that was the turnkey where we could no longer go back to classic horror and we were on the kind of modern to postmodern streak?
Can I start it off?
You may.
I actually want to point out that I think this is going to vary greatly between, especially like me and you. I think that's probably me and Steak are probably the largest age gap. But the reason I say that is, like with my kid now, who's extremely into horror, I noticed that she doesn't like some stuff just because of the age on it. You know what I mean? So that, I'm going to say Texas Chainsaw for me is where I identify modern versus classic horror. Like in my head, anything older than Chainsaw, I'm not going to lie, I'm usually a little reluctant to watch. just because of like a certain feeling, the way I feel like people act, the way it looks, everything like that just kind of throws me off. It does with the kid too, a lot for 80s films, right? So if you ask me, it's Texas Chainsaw, 1974. Anything past that, it didn't really pick up until 78, as far as like a big horror boom. But as far as just like what feels right to me is like a modern horror movie. That's it. Now for my kid, it might be the 90s, right? Like, and for like that generation coming up, stuff in the 80s is going to look ancient to them, and they're going to have a hard time watching it, like I did with stuff in the 60s and 50s. Now, as I get older, I'm a little smart. I can go back and watch that stuff. But everybody knows that's a real problem you go through in the genre is, what's too old for modern sensibilities. And I'd say to most people, the 80s is too old at this point.
Dan, what would you say?
For me, 1968 changes everything. With, of course, again, Rosemary's Baby, but more regarded for me, Night of the Living Dead. Of course, I often try and get people to watch older films with very little success. Now, black and white, forget about it. I have no luck whatsoever, except with Night of the Living Dead 1968. I think that one created an entire subgenre that is going harder than ever now. I think we're in our, 8th spinoff of Walking Dead. It's just ingrained in American pop culture, and we would have none of that. We can trace it all back to Night of the Living Dead. As far as like where we're at now, I think The Conjuring and Insidious were two films that, although I think those are good movies, changed a lot of things for the worse, because that's kind of where we enter that, loud noise equals terrifying.
I was the thing way before that.
You can always trace it back a little bit further, but I think that really cemented it. And you
always have trends in horror.
Yes.
Like that was like the most recent trend. Before that, it was torture porn and remakes. Like, I think this is a good target, a good argument topic. I'm just gonna back off and let everybody.
Oh no, that's cool. It's just that sort of jump scares are good. It's the cheap jump scares. It's just it's
consequence.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I have it's those false cheap jump scares where it's just the whole movie's just like, oh, there's a hand
on the shoulder, cat in the closet.
They all do it. That is something that they do so much. And I watch a lot of horror films, so I notice it more than maybe the average person. But that's not real.
But what makes Nightmare on Elm? What makes Night of the Living Dead a modern horror film to you? Because in my argument, I'd say it's one of the last of the classic horror films. The way it's acted, the way it's presented. I mean, the people still have this overacting radio style voice on, which is what turns me off the older stuff. So in Rosemary's Baby, like as far as I'm concerned, like that fits right in the fucking 60s, nowhere near modern horror. Like,
listen, sister.
Exactly. It's all talking fast. See, I feel a lot of that.
Rosemary's Baby was, again, I don't rank it as high for me. I get what you're saying, but that one was definitely getting to the point where it's like we're not going to just show you the monster, the typical like monster movies that we had before then. It was going to just let our minds create something far more horrific.
Well, let's let these guys go so I can argue, because that's what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
You're gonna have more to argue in a moment.
So. Okay, cool. That's what I want to do.
Hit it up.
Oh shit! So, I mean, like the way I when we started talking about this, I immediately kind of like, well, what is modern? What is classic? Like at this point, like Jonathan started to hit on it, and then he kind of went in a different space. But for different people, that's going to mean a lot of different things. And so, like, my sister is 22. She ain't watching this. I don't have to know that. She's 22. So that's only 9 years between her and I. But what she would be able to fathom time-wise, truly like the 80s, like fucking one of her favorite movies also is Return of the Living Dead. I raised her well. But honestly, anything much before that, even like the first Nightmare on Elm Street, she doesn't really care that much about. She likes the sequels, which for a lot of people that is the case. But now for me, it's like none of that shit's all modern to me still. Like the 80s on. But then there's kind of like all the older stuff it's a little harder, the 30s, 40s. I haven't gotten into a lot of 50s and 60s horror, honestly.
Black Sunday Steak.
Count on one hand. Anything from that era, and I couldn't particularly tell you why, but I would say that Dan is in the right direction as far as Night of the Living Dead being one of those movies that kind of is a kind of a splitting point. Kind of my overall notion, I guess, is that it's not two sides. It's periods, and it kind of just depends on where you are on that sliding scale that works. But like, I mean, then Jonathan with Texas Chainsaw Massacre being another one, even though that's a very close kind of point, it's a very different, world just in that 5 years in between, and then even 5 years after that, Halloween, that almost kind of pulls generationally another thing. And then I feel like it is what it is until around 96 with Scream. And then again, another short time period. Hold on. The Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
And then again, after that, Paranormal Activity.
Which was the one that launched more of the found footage. We didn't get a million found footage movies after Blair Witch.
Blair Witch, yeah.
Yeah.
Pulled one or two every now and again, they'd come up. But then, like, Paranormal Activity was kind of the fucking.
So, like, what I'm hearing is you're saying we could classify just more so than modern versus classic. There's eras within both.
Yeah. But I don't know. I didn't come up with anything as a kind of an explanation as to why, and maybe it's oversight on my part, and one of you guys will have a movie from the 80s kind of would delineate another one, but truly I can't, because I don't know. But again, I just think it's odd that it kind of, there are kind of right along, there are movies that kind of like can delineate that, but then the 80s there's nothing.
So I think that Dan has the year right. He just has the wrong movie. 1968 is definitely the year I think that there's a huge watershed change in the films. And I think I'll discuss what that is in a second, because it could work with either of our examples. I think it actually is the Robert Hartford Davies film Corruption that is the first truly modern horror film. If you haven't seen Corruption, despite the fact that it stars Peter Cushing, which kind of gives away its age, the thing could have come out mid-'80s as a gross, rapey slasher film just fine. But it's a brutal experience, and if you see the international version, it leaves nothing to the imagination that you're expecting from that type of entertainment.
From Peter Cushing. Like that's why I think people forget about it, because it's like you've got Peter Cushing essentially playing a role meant for Joe Spinell.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it is that rough too. But it's the first time you see something like as immediate in its presentation of violence and degradation on screens, like on the celebrated silver screen. And that right there, I think, is the point. I think when we really talk about classic era versus modern era, where that separation really lies is how we've consumed and how comfortable we are in that box. If you like modernly, there's films that make sense to have watched on VHS the first time you saw them, or on DVD or Blu-ray or streaming. That when you see an older film on those formats, you, in the back of your head, there's a little tickle that says people watch this in a theater when it was in black and white or whatever in a bygone era. It feels like a movie with history. Whereas after a certain point, films don't feel like they have that history. And yes, like this late 70s and the 80s films are starting to get that veneer, that patina. But in general, for most people, those films still feel the world that they're portraying is still very much still the world we have, which maybe the difference is cell phones, computers, but people are not that different culturally.
Mhm.
I'm not saying they're the same, but they're not that different culturally. When you watch something from before corruption or before Night of the Living Dead, they are the obvious. But when people project the racial identities into Night of the Living Dead, right? Because the role was not written for a black man, they just gave it to the best guy who showed up. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. I kind of go back and forth on my thinking of it, but
Well, I'm sure it was also
it's
something to
because
talk about.
right.
So
But that conversation didn't even begin until the 80s.
that's
No
true.
one really was giving it deep thought. And the reason they weren't is because we were projecting on our views of the 60s. So we were putting it into an older context, and that was what made it say, a classic film in a wider view. I dare you to watch Corruption today and think of it as a 60s film. I guarantee you won't.
I'd have to watch it because I've never seen it.
It is a gross fucking movie, and I mean that in the best possible way. Now, is it Martyrs gross? Is it Irreversible gross? No, of course not. But it's a lot grosser than you expect. It's probably as gross as one of the Ilsa films. So
and very shocking movie. Like, you forget when it was made. I mean, it really most people aren't aware of it either. And again, I think that's just the general view they have of Peter Cushing, who's, for all accounts, like one of the nicest guys imaginable. I mean, he was just such a sweet guy. He hated that he did that movie. Hated the story behind it too is very interesting. Grindhouse Releasing put out the Blu-ray. If you guys want to check it out, I do highly recommend it because
company you don't get a lot from
because they don't do much.
Yeah, they put out something every 2 or 3 years.
Pieces, Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah,
but they have very high
choice
standards on the release.
Choice. Didn't Sage Stallone have something to do with that company?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, can I pose a question?
Yeah, let's fight.
68 seems to be a sticking point for at least 2 people. Let me ask you about Night of the Living Dead specifically. So let's go, and me and Lauren are neither one huge fans of this movie I'm getting ready to talk about, but Dawn of the Dead, okay? What's the time frame between those 2 movies? 8 years?
4 years? Or 10 years. Jesus Christ.
9 years, right?
9 years somewhere. It was. I know it wasn't quite 10, right? Those 2 movies are insanely different to me. Tone, the way they feel, like there's a ton of stuff in frame now that we're seeing. The characters are handled a little different. They're very different films, same filmmaker. And I would argue that Dawn of the Dead represents more of that modern style of horror, and Night of the Dead was more of a send-off to that old style.
Night of the Dead is a piece of shit from 2006.
Night of the Living Dead. Children of the Living Dead.
I think it really does depend on your age and when you first discovered Night of the
Right.
Living
There's no right answer for this, is what I'm saying.
But if you compare Night of the Living Dead with, say, so if we're going to put the same distance between, right? So if you go 10 years before Night of the Living Dead, you're talking what, late 50s? So compare Earth versus the Flying Saucer to Night of the Living Dead.
Again, and you're still in that space age.
Right. So Night of the Living Dead felt very grounded and very real and very documentary.
And I could almost get on board with that was a peak of it, right? But I still think like its fundamentals are still in an older style of filmmaking.
I don't think it's old enough.
I could see that too, but
I think at the end when we have the vigilantes shooting just everyone they see in the head just to be sure, that's not something you would see in a 30s or 40s or 50s film. That's something that can only have happened late 60s. Definitely.
I wish I could better express what I'm trying to say with how dialogue is handled in those older movies, but I just don't. But I hate
they still in Night of the Living Dead is very much that. What the fuck do they call that? That like Atlantic fucking.
Try champion.
You can be boss down there. I'm boss up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a little bit unfair too because. No, because here's the thing. That's how people talked. That's actually those performances are very naturalistic for that time period. Watch films from the 70s. Watch blaxploitation films from the 70s. That's how the people.
It's good to know that I would have just fucking punched everyone I saw in 1940.
Then you would have. People were very careful, much more careful and deliberate with the language.
If you put one of those gentlemen in modern times, they would do the same. We are so disrespectful comparatively.
Yes.
Just in every moment of the day.
Fuck them. I ain't got to be respectful to nobody. Fuck that guy.
The big thing about Night of the Living Dead also that I think makes it very modern in a sense is that before that your heroes were heroes and they were always justified and their actions always were going to lead to the win, right? They were all basically Tarzan in a business suit, right? The morality was pushed. But Ben spends the whole movie just proclaiming the wrong solution. He's wrong. That's the whole point. We like him. We're on his side. Mr. Cooper is an asshole. We don't like him, but his solution was right. And then of course we have the Greek chorus.
He ought not be.
Yeah, and then the Greek chorus comes in at the end to say, no, you're both wrong because the inhumanity of man to man is what this is really about. Right. But when you just take the binary of their two positions, they both end up in the opposite position than they've been advocating for the whole time, which is, again, this is a very political film. They swap positions, but to our horror, Ben ends up having been wrong. And that's what's so soul crushing about that ending is that ultimately he just should have kept driving. He should never have stopped that. Go until you ran out of gas. That's what the movie's saying. If you stop at that farmhouse to have the conversation about how to survive, you are going to die.
Get out.
And I don't know where the project. Yeah, I don't know where the project is right now, but apparently there was a Night of the Living Dead in production from Cooper's point of view. Telling the story from his point of view, because I always said,
Can I just say I don't give a fuck?
Yeah.
The amount of fucks I give is so little on anything else Dead series. I saw we're going to get the seventh and final of George A. Romero's Dead series. Well, guess what? The last 4 sucked dick.
Well, hey, he's
so I don't
involved,
really
so
need
maybe
one.
this one will be all right.
No, because he probably wrote it. And let's be honest, the man was really not that great at writing. Just go ahead and call it what it is.
You got lucky a couple times.
Couple times he gets lucky. Other times, you end up with Bruiser.
He got lucky at that time when I found him. That's what Tom Petty said. How to kill a conversation? Just quote Tom Petty.
I've been saying that for years.
I love Tom Petty.
Creep Show's only good because it wasn't written by him. Next time.
I can't. Romero is an icon, John.
Oh, fuck him, dude. A couple decent flicks.
Listen,
more
Jonathan,
than a couple.
Jonathan, we may be a little bit different on here, but I keep saying this. We've lionized a handful of horror directors from a very specific time period, and we all ignore that besides Cronenberg, they all fucking produced horrible films.
Oh, every fucking one of them, dude. Every fucking one. Go watch The Ward.
And it's just, well, don't even Ghosts of Mars. It's really counterproductive that there's people who were making great films at that time that we don't talk about their work because we're talking about these same few. I'm a huge Tobe Hooper fan, but I'll fully admit, like, if you watch Jin, his last film, you deserve what you get.
Mortuary, all that. But it started way earlier for Romero, is what I'm saying.
Like, well, there's bad stuff in the early stuff too. I mean, I try and watch There's Always Vanilla. Yeah, go ahead. Have fun.
Yeah, have a good time.
Even Season of the Witch is a tough watch. I get bored all the time.
Night Riders.
I do love Night Riders.
Night Riders is great.
I've never seen it. I haven't. I've procured copies of his entire filmography. I just, for good reason, I was burned so badly by Bruiser.
Bruiser's bad.
Bruiser's really bad.
So I do have like a very, it's something similar to PTSD about seeing anything. I mean, and then honestly, Survival of the Dead was really, really taxing.
So was Diary. So was Land. And Land was when he had money.
So Land is...
He never had more money than he had with Land.
I pretend Land was released direct to CBS. Like it was just a television movie. And in that way, if you think of it like that, not too bad. Could have been worse.
Land is not as awful as we tend to project.
No,
on
it's
it,
not.
It's a zombie movie.
But
But it's
It's-
supposed to be by one of the
well,
greatest zombie
right.
directors of all time.
Right.
Yeah.
But it has
Yeah.
it has all the problems that all the later stuff would have. It's just not as amplified. But there's a lot of great ideas. The fireworks are a great concept. I actually think John Leguizamo's performance fits the characters of Dawn and Day pretty fucking well.
Yeah, he's
Leguizamo's
Hop-
great.
Hopper,
Hopper was great.
Hopper's all over the place, but it's Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the social commentary was too on the nose. I mean, for me,
Too much of
Romero
that.
hit.
He fucking started sniffing his own ass.
Yeah, he did.
I think
He
is what
did.
happened.
Well,
Well,
I think
but he hit the home run
accidentally
3
hit on some
times.
shit in Night. I'm not gonna lie. I think he accidentally hit on shit in Night. It got conflated. He's like, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then,
we were
like,
in the car driving when it happened. We had
And
just
I thought
wrapped
I'm gonna
that
make this
night.
black guy the hero
Promise.
because, god damn it, I'm George A. Romero and I stand
Yeah.
for things. Like that's not what happened.
I think it's more amazing to me that he just picked him because he was the best guy available.
that's a better.
It is a better.
I don't know. That's a better way to make a movie.
Yeah.
That's how it
Like-
should be. Grab the best person you possibly have access to. Dwayne Jones is amazing. It's too bad he didn't make more
All I'm getting
films.
at is
Because
once you
otherwise,
go-
it's basically him going, blacks, who wants to act, looking for blacks.
Did you guys see Mads Mikkelsen where the reporter asked him about representation in his Danish 17? It takes place in 1750 and why there isn't any representation in it.
they weren't there. That's why.
And I think the answer was it was 1750. And
They weren't there. That's their representation is where they are at that point. I don't know. Pretend like you know where they are and watch. the
yeah,
movie.
it's a funny clip because it's like you could tell he just like trying to talk to a child and explain that it
Boy.
was pretty white at that time. It's just that's that
rather
story.
white.
So I guess we're not going to find agreement on when exactly classic horror ends and modern begins, but I think this conversation is one well worth having. So out there in the chat,
Can I
man.
just kind of final point real quick,
Yeah.
Lauren? And say that it kind of is for exactly the reason that two of you are arguing against the other. I kind of feel like, yeah, and Lauren, I know you're more corruption than Night of the Living Dead, but the fact that there was enough of it, well, no, it's too old, or no, it's not old enough.
Well, so there's a conversation.
Maybe that's the
there.
one. Maybe that's the
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Could very
It
well
is
be.
the delineation. But
It
We're
is
not
the
really that far
delineation,
apart when
The
you think
vanishing
about it.
point.
No one's
You're
really
kind of
far
saying
apart
the
here.
same
I
thing.
thought Lauren was going to be like,
Old
"Well,
but new.
1935." When
No.
Once they started talking, that was over.
talkies, when the talkies
No,
came
no,
around, it ruined everything.
Definitely late 60s is definitely late 60s, no matter how you cut it. But it's. I think we can split hairs over which movie, but there was definitely something in the society that said, okay, these things are permissible and these points of views are permissible to have in mass market. That's kind of
Disco was in the air, baby.
And
it
I
all
think
went to
really
shit when
wasn't.
vaudeville died.
Oh, it hadn't taken hold. It was in the air.
well,
It was
I think the
husks
big thing is
of
there
disco
was
were
a
settling
change.
in.
There was a change in the rules in the late 60s, early 70s on who
Mhm.
really could make movies. We'll probably see this years down the line, 50 years from now. They'll be talking about the early 2010s.
the digital
when
revolution.
accessibility became a different thing, so more people can make films. I think that's what you see is when more people are allowed in. That's when everything changes.
I think that's an excellent point. We'll leave it there. In the meantime, does anyone remember laser pointers in the movie theaters?
Yeah,
Yes.
I
yes, I
remember-
do.
Anyone been right behind that guy who won't put his fucking cell phone down the whole movie? How about teenage girls chattering behind you about absolute nonsense? That was a little sexist for me to say, but that's based on a real experience. So, guys, I'm really interested in your worst movie-going experiences. Dan, go ahead. I know you have more than one, so you'll start it and end it.
A lot of them, a lot of them are date oriented. And I'm going to say first dates don't go to a movie. It's really stupid, but I had one girl. I had just moved to West Virginia, and Hostel was out. Rarity that I didn't get to see it like immediately because it had been out a little while, but I was
Hostel
moving.
on a date.
I did, but somehow, you know, she knew I was a horror guy, and then she was like, you know, I want to see something like really, really scary. Because to her, like the scariest movie ever made was, you know, just some mainstream piece of crap.
They never
don't
like
even
what we tell
remember.
them to like either.
Yeah, so she said, and I
They don't.
I
though.
hadn't, but she asked for it because she said, I'd like to see something a little more extreme. I didn't see Hostel. I came out wrong. I didn't see Hostel, but I knew it was extreme. I knew about it. I saw, you know, the hype and everything going into it. And so I was like, why don't we go see Hostel? I haven't seen Hostel. It was like my first date from moving into West Virginia. And she said, oh, that'd be great. She got really mad, like mad to the point. And I can't count one because I did have a girl that started sobbing when I showed her Eden Lake. But that was at home, so I can't count that.
Dan, you gotta vet these women better. Like you can tell who's gonna cry at what.
Chill the fuck out for a minute. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you don't go
Like,
straight off to fucking
stare into it.
Hey, let's find something
Kruger's.
good. Let's find something good and rapey for a first date. Let's you wanna rethink being here alone with me real quick?
Hey, this is a Ron Jeremy outtake. Sit down.
You know what Kruger's first date movie was with, I think it was his ex, but it was a Serbian film. So I didn't go that hard.
Me and Kruger
didn't go that hard.
If Kruger took me out on a date to a Serbian film, we'd fought.
I think that's what he wanted to happen, though.
So I go in there.
Fight.
She's already annoyed at the nudity because the first half of Hostel is essentially a sex comedy, and so she's annoyed. I could tell she wasn't liking the movie.
Didn't she ask for it though? Sounds like you dodged a bullet here, dude. Like I'm not seeing any wrongdoing on your part.
It ruined the movie though because she was making comments like, "Oh, more tits," and I was like, I don't like talking too much during a movie. I actually like watching the movie. And when, of course, the second half kicks in and you're getting people sawed up, she got up and left. But when she did it, she stood up in the theater and it's like staring at me. I see her in my like peripherals. I'm just assuming going to the bathroom. And then as it becomes apparent, like she wanted me to walk out too. And I didn't. And she leaves and I'm thinking like she had to just have left. I'm like, all right, what a shitty date. But when I go out, she's just sitting there waiting and starts talking to me about how like the misogyny in the movie. I got like a 25-minute lecture there in the theater about how awful the movie was.
Let me tell you something about 2005 Dan and 2005 Jonathan that were very different. I would have been there for a much different reason, and I'd have been like, yes, it is so misogynistic. Let's go back to my place and talk about it.
I couldn't have pulled that off, Jonathan. I mean, she already knew things. I mean, I don't know.
Did she miss the point that the misogyny is the bad guy in the movie? I mean,
see, people who get offended by that shit never get the fact that when you play something like that, it's for stupidity, and you're supposed to be angry with it, and it's supposed to look dumb. They don't. No one ever fucking gets that. Andrew Dice Clay for 30 years because of it.
Yeah. I have another one involving bodily fluids, but I will tag you guys in for one first.
All good news and Jonathan, you have a bad movie experience you'd like to?
I really have not had many bad movie experiences other than seeing bad movies. I guess like the one that pops up is an old man. I saw Disturbia in like 2008.
Oh, that's bad enough.
That was right. It fit right in there for me. I like Disturbia. I think it was a decent Rear Window remake for the modern generation. But this old dude had like one of the cell phone clips. Like we're talking like that went on the outside of the pants through like the clear sleeve.
Lauren, so hold yours up.
And
man, you know what's sad? I don't have it upstairs anymore. I used to have my cell phone from 2000, from 98.
which
Oh
was like,
shit!
You bastard. But like the thing, like the cell phone rings during the movie, and I give him the whole surely he's scrambling to get to that thing right now. You know what I mean? Like surely when you hear that shit, you know the person's got to be fucking so embarrassed, right? Not fucking Greg or whatever the fuck his name was. He was gonna answer it. Hello? No, we're in the movies right now. Huh? No, the movies. And it just kind of kept going. I didn't say anything because, like, I'm shocked at this point. Like, this is actually happening in a packed theater on a Friday night, mind you. But I guess that's like the worst because I try to go to the movies like during the day when there's really not a lot of people there. So
Yeah.
I'm not big on seeing something like the day it comes out. We're in the movies. No, the movies.
Steak, do you have a bad experience?
I'll say also, I really don't have any that are, predicated anything besides the shitty movie. I've streamed several times fucking on YouTube about the 47 meters down uncaged. Also another movie.
That movie was made it better.
Fuck, man. Like, honestly. But and then another movie, a David Gordon Green picture from 2021, and that was the movie was.
Oh, eat a dick, you bald bitch!
Damn.
Kiss me on the mouth.
Eat a dick. Find something else to harp on, you fuckers. We
This
get
is
it.
why
You
I'm not
like
naming it, you fucking girl.
We get
I was
it. You
gonna
like
say
it.
that the biggest issue I had in the theater viewing of that movie was that I was so upset and just got very high all of a sudden. Like I let it take over, so it wasn't just to enhance the movie, and I was just a piece of shit. I was laughing at everything. It was embarrassing for everyone involved, but I couldn't help it. So I will say it very much my fault is probably, my worst theater experience is just me being a dickhead because I checked out of that movie.
Well, at least you could see that steak.
Yeah. No, I fully get it. And there were times where I tried to
never.
Shh, it's a movie. Shh, shh. Okay, fuck it.
Fuck it. Fuck them.
Okay, check this out. Sayreville, New Jersey, the Amboy Cinemas, right off the highway, infamous for no, uptown a little bit, infamous for being crime-ridden movie theater, drugs being sold in the back, parking lot looked like the surface of the moon. The inside of the theater was not much better. All the seats were torn up and slashed. I find myself
drugs. You said though they had drugs.
Lots of drugs.
I'm gonna need an address.
It's not there anymore.
Drug guy
Thank God they bulldozed it.
They've got the nice recliners.
And it was the first 18 screen theater in New Jersey. So anyway, there was an 11 p.m. showing of a film called Monkey Bone, which I knew nothing about, but I had friends who apparently did want to see this film, and they convinced me that their selling point was, well, you like Rose McGowan? She's in
it. Your hate for Brendan Fraser eclipsed it, huh?
Oh, well, I wasn't deeply in hate because I hadn't seen enough at that point.
That's how you kidnap a Lorne, by the way. You write free Christina Ricci or Rose McGowan on the side of a van.
Yeah, well, Tapsy Panu. But so we walk into this theater and it's a bad experience already because like at 11 o'clock in Sayreville is basically like anytime at PM in downtown Detroit. So we walk in and people are already rowdy. They're crazy. There's fights among people on the line. We buy tickets. We get into the theater. It's well attended. That's a problem because that late, that well attended means everyone is drunk.
Yep.
Everyone is drunk. So
hey, shut the fuck up.
Then the movie starts, and the movie is actually getting the audience angry. So now there are angry drunks in the theater. And then suddenly, bang, bang. So I should mention that that theater was all one long row, and then there was the parking lot. So anything that happened in the parking lot, like a car pulling into a parking lot, into a parking space, a
a misfire from an exhaust system or gunshots, you could clearly hear in the theater. So yeah, we definitely had to.
Awful.
We
That's a
definitely had
Jersey
to.
story there, buddy.
We definitely had to evacuate the movie theater for the police investigation.
So somebody shot up the
Monkey Bone.
fucking.
And here's the thing. No, this is the thing. I didn't mind that I was missing the end of Monkey Bone because you've seen Monkey Bone, right? But here's the thing. Because my friends have no self-respect and hate me, when it came out on VHS, you know what they fucking did to me? They made me see the end of Monkey Bone.
Did you get your money back?
At that point, I wanted someone to get shot outside the house just so I wouldn't have to see the end of Monkey Bone.
Until it came out on DVD. So now, like, once they're out up to 8K, he'll finally see the end of it.
No, unfortunately.
I was also in a series of.
I was also in the Cineplex Odeon
murders.
and the Menlo Park Mall to see Strange Days when the theater caught on fire.
Ooh.
We got evacuated from that, and they were handing out tickets, which was funny because that movie's all like sounds and whirly noises and stuff. So we didn't realize that the emergency alarms were going off. We experience. So until a theater manager was like, "You gotta go. You're gonna burn to death." Turns out it was a very small fire, and we wouldn't have burned to death, but we didn't know that. But we had to wait outside, and then the manager comes around. He's like handing us free passes. He goes, and I go, "Do I have to see that again?" He's like, "No, you can come back for whatever you want." That was good news.
You didn't like Strange Days.
I've never seen past the first 15 minutes, and I think I'm good.
Okay.
I think
I remember liking it, but it's been a long time.
Yeah. So that's my bad Jersey theater stories.
I don't. I have a lot of. I have a lot of nice memories of seeing the movies in New Jersey because there were AMC theaters everywhere.
Yeah.
So I could see 3 movies in a week very easily, spending very little money, especially if I was driving and not taking an Uber. I do miss the I forget which town it is, what city it is, but there is an AMC next to like a Sony fucking building.
It's Hackensack.
Yeah. I guess it is. Yeah. And I loved it. A lot of Chinese people, which I think is just the area, like kind of that.
Anything Edison South.
Getting close to
yeah.
I don't know, man. Like
Fort Lee too is full of the Asian culture.
If I pull into the movie theater and there's a lot of vehicles, I'm just as good to circle around that bitch and leave.
I would
people are what ruin these things.
I would go. I spent a lot of time at the AMC in Wayne, New Jersey, as well, because I would lay in my Dodge Journey and take about an hour nap after work. So all that fucking shitty 46 and 80 traffic is dispersed, and then I sneak into a late showing, and then I drive home fucking in like 20 minutes. It was a lot of fun that way. That's where I saw Hellfest. Unfortunately, I also saw The Nun there. That theater, I believe, is one that has the audio shaky seat things. So The Nun that made The Nun a little bit better, I guess. Free massage kind of thing. But
if it rattled your brain a little bit, it probably did help that movie.
Oh. I mean, it did have Jersey's
best hotel beds.
I stayed in Airbnb a couple weeks ago that had like those adjustable Craftmatic things with the massage feature. It rattles the entire fucking house. It was insane. There were also dragon tapestries hanging everywhere. So they could proclaim it a dragon house and charge more money.
Welcome to my dojo.
That's where the hidden cameras were. They were in the dragon house.
Be sure to grab your complimentary kimono.
There was a half-ass like mini golf thing in the backyard too.
Please don't play the tiger drum after 10 p.m.
I have one that has nothing to do with the movie being shown. It was The Last House on the Left remake.
So I was a date for me too.
Not a day. I was alone,
It was a
but
date
I
for me.
did witness a couple. Now, this couple, they had to be like 18, like, and they had a baby with them at the last house on the left, Remakes. So go figure. And I'm pretty sure I watched them break up. What made it even worse, and it had
Watch
nothing
a
to do with the
family
movie.
break.
The baby was crying. The baby shit itself, and the whole theater stunk. So I'm like borderline. I'm just gonna call this a loss and leave. And so they not once are they even checking the baby. It's like they're arguing over who goes to the bathroom and changes the baby. And I'm sitting there. There's only like 4 other people in there, but it was just misery. And I'm pretty sure they broke up because the
Because
girlfriend
the
wife.
dad was like, "Why the fuck would you bring the fucking baby in here, you dumb bitch?"
There was a lot.
Wow, there's some
There
gender
were-
roles going on there.
She took the
Dude,
baby.
I'm guaranteeing you whose idea that was. It wasn't his.
I was tempted to just yell out, "Can you just maybe both take the baby to the bathroom?" It's like,
Or you
me
could
see.
neither one of you get to watch the goddamn movie tonight because that's how parenting
Yeah.
works.
No, we have to go. We
I
can't
did
find
not
a
have
babysitter.
to have your baby. If I'm not there for the conception, I'm not putting up with the bullshit.
the baby was. I mean, I felt the baby had no concept that he was a baby. No
Fuck that
concept
baby,
of what was
Dan. Let's be
happening.
real.
Baby's
That Dan is a
Right.
Dan. That baby's a 17-year-old douchebag right now. You say what you need to say about that kid.
God, probably close to that too. God, yeah.
Yeah, we're
shit,
old,
that
buddy.
movie's small. So it was just misery. And there's a lot of phone stories. I wanted to be more creative, so those are the 2 that I first came to mind. I saw Birth Rebirth with Todd when I was in LA, and there was the guy and whoever was with them the whole time just staring at their phone. And this is like you're right behind them, so they're sitting there, they're texting, swiping, and I'm thinking like, why are you at this movie? I mean, there's warnings on the screen, so you can't say you don't know. Put the phones away. That I don't get. It's one of the most rude things imaginable, and that is why I also try and go on weekdays to see.
Weekdays are
movies.
great, dude. When you walk
Yeah.
into a theater and you're like, "Oh, this is just for me today."
Yeah, me
Shout
or
out.
maybe a few other people.
You know?
Monday, Tuesday night showings are my favorite.
Yeah,
Like the last showing of the night, generally for whatever I was going to see. That is one of the biggest things I miss about New Jersey. I'm in the middle of fucking nowhere up here. Local theaters are cool. They do have better popcorn. Almost always real butter. Like it is just fucking better. But the seats
you have
are
the
always better
recliner
than
seats?
AMC.
I have a jet.
Not usually. No, like they're just basic bitch seats. They suck.
I want
I
to know
like
where these
old
things
I
are.
gotta drive an hour one way or another to hit even like a Regal or something, which I used to laugh at Regal people.
Never been to a Regal. I've never been to a Regal or an AMC.
Ooh, you a Cinemark?
Wow.
Malco.
Next meetup, we got to get you to an AMC, Jonathan. It sucks.
Hey, the
now.
Malco is pretty fucking sweet. I'm not gonna lie. Like our new one is very, very nice.
I went to a Malco at least once or twice years ago, and I don't remember having any issues.
Ours is like 16 screens now, and they all have the little recliners, and like the you can drink alcohol in it, which is a huge deal now over here because
Very
people
good.
wipe
Fun
their
for some
fucking
people.
are fucking alcoholics in this town. We gotta appease
Hey,
them.
Lauren,
By town,
do
you mean
know-
America?
Yeah, pretty much. We're gonna just weed's bad for you folks. But here, have
Got
a
a
beer
rough
with you.
estimate of
Have a
the-
beer at the Troll movie, you fucking degenerate.
The number of drive-ins in New Jersey?
One.
It is just one.
It's one.
So that is
Again-
one thing I do.
again,
I just the area I live in, just like within
the
an hour
aforementioned
drive.
Egg Harbor Township. That's the township. It's not the town.
Wow.
You have to go
Yeah.
way down south. It's outside of Atlantic City.
Yeah,
But-
I
but-
know where Egg Harbor is.
Yes, but you have, of course, 3 in Pennsylvania within an hour that you can pretty much get to.
Mahoning.
You have the Mahoning, you have Becky's, and you have Shankweiler in PA.
I have 3 that are, 2 of them are a half-hour drive. one is like fucking,
Yeah.
solidly closer than that even, but the other one is within an hour. So I will say this area does have that going.
How many screens
it's all
are
the extra
usually
farm.
there? Steak. How many screens they usually got at those things?
The two that I frequent the most often is 2 each.
See, we have the one
The,
here
the
that's
third
really
one I
close.
think has 10.
Yeah, that's what I was
It's
gonna
like
say.
a fucking maze. I don't like go. I like to go if I'm not driving because I get fucking.
We have 6 at our local one, and I
Worked up.
feel like that's a fucking lot. Like it didn't feel like
Yeah.
most drive-ins have fucking 6 screens.
No,
Mm,
that's ugly.
yeah, that's
Like it works out, but it seems like it's because you gotta go over here to get back over on that side to get that screen.
Well, I do, and like this one, they're all double features, so they don't mind if you switch up screens. You know what I mean? Like
Oh
once you're
no,
in there,
this one specifically says do not.
do they charge by the person or do they charge by the
I
car?
think they just shit. I don't remember.
You know how many fucking 15 and 16-year-olds you can fit in the trunk of a fucking Impala?
Couple hundred.
That's what you used to do back in the day, man. You'd park at the drive-in and trunks would open and teenagers come flooding out of these fucking things. Like
That's always weird though, because they can see you later.
But yeah, they didn't give a fuck, dude. Like they really had a good, like they got that was kind of part of it, right? You know, you're getting one on them. Never said anything about it. We always spent money at the concessions and shit anyway. Like that's where they're making their money. So like it's still a known thing, but it's like look at those fucking idiots over there. Fucking hopping out. If you want to ride in the back of, you want to ride in the trunk, we'll let you watch the movie. We're fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sometimes you have people in your trunk that you just forgot about.
That's when it gets really sticky. Is like, are these people placed there, or is this a work thing? You know what I mean?
Is that ketchup?
So you guys have some remakes that you actually want to happen, as opposed to the shit that gets made that we don't want to happen. Is there any films? Is there any films that you always kind of liked but wanted to like even more if they did it right?
Jonathan, go.
No, don't start with me.
I have a bunch.
Okay.
And obviously I won't go into super detail on them all. I'll give you my one non-horror one. And I do like this movie, but I would like to see it with the original ending from the book, and that's Rambo First Blood. If you know that ending, you know it's quite different. There was like 18.
That scene exists. You could just stop the movie dead and fucking go watch the deleted scene and just pretend that's the movie.
It does, sure. But I'd like to kind of see it like the original vision, I think was
just be that movie.
There's other differences between the novel and the film too. So.
There is, yeah. There's pretty significant differences. That's my non-horror one, but
a lot more nuance in the book. But that's what books generally have. There's more time.
And I love the movie too. Don't get me wrong. But all right, some of this is I'm not going to elaborate because it'll be obvious. But Hellraiser 3. Because I wish we had stayed on track.
Oh,
what could have been. I'm sorry, Jonathan.
You
Hellraiser
smug
3.
asshole.
Look at how quickly
because that one was too much fun. It was just too much goddamn
not
fun.
A fun movie.
That movie's fun. Fuck all y'all. That's the MTV Hellraiser.
I like Motorhead too, but I'm sorry. It's not.
The movie's fun. Eat a dick.
Well, it also killed everything pretty quickly at that point.
Really? Because there was about 15 fucking movies after that, so it killed it pretty goddamn
There's only one
slow.
theatrical after that.
Oh, and but three's the reason that shit got pulled from theatrical.
It missed the point. I just think, man, what could
did it miss the point, or did it take the concept that Pinhead and all the other Cenobites are
it
like
tried to turn Hellraiser into Nightmare on Elm Street. That's what it did, and that's
it realized it was cool enough to try to fucking do that.
It was too late. That was 9 years.
Look, we're magic now. Now I have a CD guy.
We have
We're out of
fucking
ideas.
Revelations
Monsters.
and Deader and fucking Inferno to complain about, and you want to go with 3?
Yeah, because those,
Inferno is better than 3.
Those are dead.
Oh,
I like.
I mean,
I don't love
yeah,
three.
I think
Not
you're
really,
comparing like
but-
real movies with like direct-to-video like product. That's a little different.
either way, like that's not what killed the franchise. Like there was a long history.
Nothing killed the
of
franchise. They're making them
garbage.
to this day.
Well, they made the one. I don't know if they're gonna make any more. I like that remake, by the way.
I do too.
When did that
Unfortunately,
come out? Was that last year?
Last year.
a year this October. I think was that an October release? I think.
That was.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
There's more right about it than wrong, but there is some things that are pretty wrong. But whatever.
Sure, it's not perfect, but I thought it was a good jump off.
That's the third
One
best
that-
in the series.
It is. Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Not a
have
hard
to go
bridge to clear.
No,
It's really not.
Yeah.
Are we clearing?
But
the-
I
Another
don't
one-
hate 3. I like it.
Three's crap. I saw that in theaters and like I was so that opening scene in the hospital and the chains hanging from the gurney. I was like, damn, we're actually going to get a proper follow up because I love Hellbound and always have. And I was like, wow, I'm so excited. And then the movie happened, and
It's a story issue. I get it. It's fun. That's well and good, but there were more interesting things they could have done and more interesting things that were written. But one that I will throw out there because everybody's about franchises and, keeping things going. We got a movie we got The Keep, which, a lot of issues with it. I like the movie. I don't know. I just do. But the franchise potential going into the Repairman Jack series there is endless with that. And I don't quite understand why they haven't taken a second shot at it. It just seems like it's all there to potentially have a huge franchise. And maybe they still will. I feel like they will take another shot at The Keep someday because there's 30, 40 books at this point from F. Paul Wilson. I mean, yeah, literally, I think 30, 34, 35, something like that. So that's another one I would throw out. One that I like a lot, but Society, the Brian Usna film. I feel like as much as I love that movie, there's something interesting you could do with it now in the current climate.
I agree. But could you imagine what a CG ass shit show that would be now? I think you're right. I think there's something to that story now.
Yeah.
But like the effects would just be because they're not bringing in Screaming Mad George.
Definitely wouldn't be bringing in Screaming Mad George.
No.
But I can see the movie in my head. The Stuff is another one that comes up from a lot of people. Consumer satire. I can see that potentially, and I like that movie. That's not a perfect movie by any means. I know people do enjoy it. And the other one I'll just throw out because it's a piece of crap, but I feel like maybe they could do something with it is Fear.com.
Ah! Okay, Dan's gotta go.
Nowhere to go but up.
Get him out of here.
Yeah,
Bad movie.
This is
I don't
kind of
wanna
the
see
point.
him.
It's shit.
No
We're
one-
remaking shit
no.
that we thought could work. So if there
It
are
To some people, I don't want making money.
pieces, okay.
I thought I was going into a good movie. I thought, but yeah, maybe
Did
we'll get it
someone
with
say
the
the
remake.
N-word, Lorne.
No.
Okay.
I think Dan did. Get rid of him. Cancel him.
Stick, do you have any films you'd like to see remade?
Well, I had one, and we'll get there. But as I was sitting here listening to Dan, I noticed the shirt that I'm wearing. And this is the Gutter Garbs Jason Takes Manhattan shirt that you can't quite see because there's a lot of green slime on it, and the green screen and the camera don't.
That's okay. It makes you
allow
naked
that.
in some places. So.
Yeah, it's cute, isn't it?
He just has a hole there. That's what most people
yeah.
don't understand.
I wish I was full of holes.
He's like Swiss
Way
cheese.
less.
Steak only weighs 150 pounds. He's hollow like a bird.
You can buy the rest of them as munchkins at Dunkin'.
Steak holes.
Oh.
Like donut holes.
God. T-shirt coming soon.
Yeah, so I mean, Jason Takes Manhattan is a movie that certainly can be done better. Obviously, there's so much more you could add to the movie to kind of, make it, actually line up with the title and shit like that. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. That was just something that kind of popped into my head that I think if you want
Just
to
do it
go
better,
kind of
right?
something that you've done better like that. The one I spent a decent amount of time on, actually, a little bit older.
Ooh.
1944, as a matter of fact, a movie that it was given to me as homework to watch for a film comedy class. Arsenic and Old Lace is a movie, so I had to watch it. I never would have watched that ever if it weren't for that class. A lot of Marx Brothers shit as well, which I'm thankful for. Pretty much everything I saw in that class is, something it was well worth taking the time to watch. But I thought the movie, first and foremost, it is fucking hilarious. But it's very dark. Like, it's a very dark comedy. It's about, these ants that they're just poisoning fellas. Their nephew comes back and he's marrying a lady. It's a whole thing. I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but I've had this thought. I've fucking just been running through different aspects of it. He has a brother that the stage play for the movie is played by Boris Karloff. He had a commitment and couldn't do the movie, but he gave them permission. There's a line in the movie that, hey, he looks just like Boris Karloff. And it's neat. And he's just kind of the sinister fucking criminal. And he's got this like doctor that just changes his face. He's just constantly performing surgery on him. It's like, there's so much shit that is played for laughs and kind of, the Teddy Roosevelt uncle also, which there's a lot of weird shit in this movie. It doesn't make sense for me to talk about it kind of, piecemeal like this, but there's the psychosis of that. And then are these ladies insane? Like, well, there's shit that you can play on and ask them like the modern kind of horror questions for, and do something potentially very cool and still keep that comedic undertone, but maybe bury it a little deeper, like a comedy horror comedy, just kind of flip flopping the verbiage, the words, and kind of the meaning of
That's the only way you can make a comedy now. You have to
the solution,
disguise it as something else now.
The ratio to comedy to horror or whatever. But yeah, Jonathan, that's unfortunately kind of true.
Yeah, it has to be something else. It has to be an action comedy, dramedy, horror comedy. There's no such thing as a comedy anymore.
That's because we're not allowed to laugh at people.
No, you're not.
No.
Especially the funny looking ones. They're the most fun to laugh at.
Yeah, not allowed.
And not allowed to point anymore either. I miss that. That way the rest of everybody knew what you were laughing at. It made things a lot easier.
And one time Steak made the OK symbol with his hand and he got beaten up outside a restaurant.
So that fucking this hand gesture is an old like John Cena fucking thing that he was doing like when he first started. John Cena, Lauren, is a former wrestler.
He's an actor that's been in the movies. I haven't seen much of his work.
Jim Varney did some steroids.
Like it,
and John
like,
Cena
was
was
a
born.
thing that he had done for years. So I don't understand where.
Is this bad now?
Yes.
Oh, it's been bad for a long time, Jonathan. I just don't understand.
Well, I've been telling people okay for fucking what does it mean?
It means white
I
power.
stole this from Eddie Murphy. If I'm
this means white power, because I thought it meant okay. Like that's
because it makes a W and a P.
Where does that make a P?
Man,
it goes no. Now you made it a B. Now it's now
White power.
This is just jerking off a really small penis. Is all this is.
Or power.
That's all that is. You only got one fucking row of fingers. Is all it is, buddy. Like,
that's it. Okay, Jonathan, you're out of time. Give us your remake.
I just got one, and it's
that's
not
all
surprising.
I'm doing too.
It's found.
Oh.
Ooh.
Micro budget film.
You just
$8,000. Yeah,
$8,000.
Yeah, $8,000. So like the movie's fine for what it is, but you could tell Scott Shermer had to spend all of his time with the kid, and the adult actors were they're literally there to run lines. Like it was more like a table read with one really prepared person, and everybody else was not. It's like the first time they'd seen the script or something. But It's written well. The story is fantastic. The premise is amazing. It can only get better, I feel like. Now, I would say, with that caveat, I want Scott Shermer directing it with a larger budget. I mean, even increase that budget times 10. What does that do? 80 grand to make Found today? What does that do?
Yeah, I think though it would be watered down quite a bit, particularly.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Even at 80 grand, which you can crowdfund, no problem.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a
that's
great
not a hard
movie. I
thing
love
to
it.
do.
It's a great film.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the movie we just got finished on, it's over $100,000 crowdfunded. So you're telling me that like Found couldn't, and that you still wouldn't have to sacrifice anything. He could make $200,000 picture, and it would be more people would see it. I guess there's not that there's anything wrong with this movie. More people would be willing to watch it.
A24 maybe.
You know what's disturbing about it, Jonathan, is that Headless, which was made as almost a joke to compliment Found,
it's the more
is better acted.
It is, and it's almost the more infamous of the two.
Yeah.
Because the first thing you say when you say Found, well, have you seen Headless?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but like Found's
They're both great. There's very different movies.
Yeah, like Found's the story, bro. Like that's the meat. You know what I mean? And
if it got a studio remake, I could see them just shooting that back to back. You got Do the X thing right now is popular. They're doing it with Talk to Me. There you go.
Found is I don't know. Go and watch it if you haven't seen it. I've been talking about it nonstop for like 2 years, but I think more people would give it a chance if it wasn't an $8,000 picture.
Ben wins though with Blood Freak in the comment section.
I just was I was at a store where it's like it was basically a big Etsy shop because it was booths with individual artists, and there was a cup that had all this old exploitation art, and Blood Freak was on it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I love that movie. That's not what I'm asking for a remake of, though. So 1980s The Legacy is a film that all of us, I think, want to like and is impossible to actually like. It's not compelling when the film actually plays out. But I mean, Catherine Ross, Sam Elliott, Charles Gray, and Roger Daltrey. That's a fucking cast for a horror movie. It's based on a novel. Everything you can line up about this film should frigging work. It doesn't. It's ultimately so flat and uninteresting and kind of lame. But there's so much there. I can't help but think that if someone took the inspiration today, got a similar, like today's version of that cast together, I think this would be a big winner, and it could be one of those 80s horror classics that people continually talk about in revered tones, as opposed to what it is now, which is a film that besides me mentioning it right now, when's the last time anyone has talked to you about The Legacy? Never.
It doesn't come up a lot. I'll bring it up, and they're like, some people are like, wait, is that the one with the cat on the cover?
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't remember anything. Yeah, it's like they never really watched it.
What is that hand doing to the cat?
The Legacy is a good contender.
Oh, you can't do that to a cat. Oh,
it has Death by Pool cover.
Yeah.
It's quite a film.
I've always been irrationally afraid of pool covers.
Yeah, there you go.
It's not a good movie, but there is something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there is something about it. I don't know. I'd say watch it just once at least.
And then remake it into a better film, please.
Thought you might say the Manitou.
The Manitou is like the last 20 minutes saves the Manitou.
It does, and that's another one franchise.
Just like The Unwanted or The Uninvited. And I don't mean the good 44 film. I mean the crappy Cat Within a Cat movie.
Killer cat movie, yeah. Yeah, Manitou.
If you want to see an alien cat that takes up residence in a cat, there's only one movie that does that.
The Uninvited is great for bad movie night. It really is. And where it causes a car accident, that scene is legendary. It's hilarious. But Manitou also franchise potential. Graham Masterton wrote several books in that universe. So, yeah.
Ben is saying that he wouldn't mind a Beast Must Die remake.
Ooh.
Actually, Ryan Johnson doing it. I love Beast Must Die so much. It's my favorite werewolf movie. I don't want them to touch it though. I can see what they would do with it.
But God, isn't that a blind spot right now? Werewolf movies? Like, where the
Yeah,
fuck
I mean,
have those been?
Yeah, someone should definitely make one of those. Maybe if the writer strikes ever ends, that'll happen.
Should they?
I think there's one. I read this little book. It might be getting a treatment. It's called Snarl. Be a perfect fucking.
I have
werewolf.
screamed that since the moment I finished it. I loved that.
Read the first page.
Sorry,
Tell me
I
that's
don't
not
like
a great
to do
setup.
that in front of people. That
Well, all we can say is, hey, Hollywood writers, Hollywood actors, make a deal, please. Please.
Let's put out some low budget shit, man. Let's get these actors out there putting the money where their mouth is. Finance some shit.
Listen, the whole business is changing massively, and as a result, there's a lot of conflict about what the future holds for everyone, and everyone's going to have to concede. No one's going to get everything they want. Hollywood is a dead concept.
I was about to say it's dying. You're going to be able to do this anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So what we need to do is make sure that everyone is taken care of. I'm more concerned with, I'm a writer, but I'm saying I'm more concerned with like the PA and the grip and the best boy that's been out of work for 6 months and is looking at another 8 months out of work.
Who was paycheck to paycheck before.
Absolutely. Or close to it anyway.
Yeah.
My friend Jeremy Graham, man, hats out to you for trying to make a living out there right now. I feel for you. You're my brother. So yeah, let's get this done. Maybe we can get some shit on the market for people that they can be excited about. Whether it is something that is a remake of something that could have been great, whether it's a film that, is thoroughly modern or classic in approach, I
just want this shit to get done so I can hear Tim Dillon talk about the assured piece of shit that he's in Thanksgiving.
The Eli Roth hate continues.
Man, could you imagine? Like, I can't think of a time this has ever happened where people wanted something for a minute minute in time. Like, we wanted Thanksgiving for like 15 minutes in 2007, and Eli Roth's like, first thing in 2023, we're gonna get that to you, just as soon. How many fucking years later?
It is bizarre, but I think at this point, other than it being a thing,
well, what do you think they made it for?
Like
how much money do you think they really spent on Thanksgiving?
Couch cushion money, probably, but
nothing.
It really felt like he was kind of trying to move away from that sort of
the house
movies.
with the cock in its walls, or whatever the fuck he was in.
Yeah, Kate Blanchett. Yeah, I mean, he was. It felt like he was going a very different direction.
I don't know why, but we've always had this disdain for Eli Roth, and I don't know if it's because he was a good-looking dude or what, but it always felt like they got the wrong guy. It was like you picked the wrong dude. Like why is he representing all of us now?
my only thing I have to say about Eli Roth that and I full disclosure, I've liked more than I've disliked in his films. But here's the thing: he's one of us, whether we want that to be true or not. He does really love the genre. He really does know his history. You might hate his films, whatever.
I don't even hate his movies. I just feel like he was the worst face we could have had.
Sure. That's completely legitimate. My problem is just that, like, I hate things. I hate those kind of like what lies beneath type things a whole lot more when you get someone who feels like they're slumming to be working in the business. At least this guy actually wants to do it.
He was excited. No, you're not wrong. Like he championed the genre.
I can't hate him too much. That's the whole.
He was a Dane Cook of our genre. Sure. I guess was like.
Hey, but Dane Cook wrote Detention, which is a fucking amazing movie.
Again, not somebody I ever had a ton of hate for, but like I get it.
I get it too. It's complex for me.
And he can act, believe it or not. There's some TV stuff I've seen him in. Like he's a capable actor. I don't know that he'll ever, He
just does really weird shit. Like, all right, well, I'm gonna greenlight a fucking Cabin Fever remake like 10 years after the first one came out.
That have you watched that?
No, I mean, Cabin Fever was okay. I didn't need to see it again.
It's the same movie, basically. I can't remember the actress's name, but it's a lady that plays the
beat
sheriff.
For beat, isn't it? Like
pretty much, a lady plays the sheriff, and she's the wife of I can't remember the Treasury Secretary or something under Trump.
Okay.
Some cabinet guy. So yeah, other than that, which was totally random, it's the same movie. Why?
And, I mean, what is it? Ty West has his fingers on the second one, but like he didn't really finish it. I can't remember how
I
that all
think he
shook
got
out.
fired. Yeah,
He's credited
yeah,
as the director of the second movie.
yeah. Somebody
I don't
else
think it's how it
finished
shook
it.
out.
And yes, Ben, The Cursed rules. It's a great film. I just like Beast Must Have Died more. They're very different types of movies.
The Cursed is already forgotten about. Most people think you're probably talking about the Wes Craven movie, Ben, unfortunately.
Cursed.
You know, when I side
I
with the film that
literally
Christina
did
Ricci is
think
not
that's what he
in
was
called
talking about.
Cursed, you know there's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guys, we're at the 2-hour point, so that means we're going to call it a night. I want to thank everyone who joined us out there in the chat. It was a very lively chat out there.
Yes.
You know, we're almost to back half a year now, and next episode will be half a year. And I want to thank everyone who took this journey with us. Again, we're going to keep going. Promise you lots more great conversation, a lot more surprises to come.
Yes, Halloween.
Halloween is next month. We're back on the 13th, which is what day of the week is that, Steak?
Friday.
Oh my God, Friday 13th in the month of Halloween.
Oh.
We'd be fools not to do something special for that episode, wouldn't we?
We're gonna have to do a retrospective on Hellraiser for sure.
Get your DVDs
It just makes
out.
good
It's
sense. It just makes good sense.
Started in 1980.
So
We're gonna
Dan's
do-
dog is going to take us out tonight. Now he's quiet. Now he's quiet.
Later, Corey.
Have a good one.
That was the same shit as the last time.
Well, you picked the last one, and you didn't like the last one.
You didn't like the last one? But you were laughing the whole time.
Yeah, because it was ridiculous.
Ridiculous. It's a classic.
I'm not really into all the weird cousin shit that was going
You
on.
lied to me.
You picked this one. You picked this one. Cousin shit.